Let's get ready for the Rhode Island real estate exam with 100 questions covering the state-specific laws, principles, and practices you'll need to know. And don't miss what's happening in the bottom corner. It could be key to your exam prep. We'll tell you how in a minute. Now let's get started.
Let's get started with a review of Rhode Island real estate law and practice. Fair housing laws in Rhode Island. What class is protected under Rhode Island's fair housing laws that is not covered under the Federal Fair Housing Act? Is it A, gender, B, military status, C, familial status, or D, national origin? The answer is B, military status. Rhode Island law includes military status as an additional protected class beyond those covered by the Federal Fair Housing Act. How must real estate agents in Rhode Island disclose protected class status to ensure compliance with fair housing laws? Is it A, they should ask clients if they belong to any protected classes? B, they should not disclose or inquire about a client's protected class? C, they should document the client's protected class status in the listing agreement? Or D, they should include the protected class status in promotional material? The answer is B. They should not disclose or inquire about a client's protected class. Real estate agents should not disclose or inquire about protected class status to remain compliant with fair housing laws in Rhode Island.
Have you noticed the code in the bottom corner? Next time you're stumped, take that code to birdsey.ai for immediate help and a free study session with Birdsey, your personal AI study partner. Plus, you'll get access to hundreds of additional questions, helping you move closer to passing your exam with confidence. The next time you're feeling unsure or stuck, give it a try.
Which agency in Rhode Island is responsible for handling complaints related to housing discrimination? Is it A, Rhode Island Association of Realtors, B, Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation, C, Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights, or D, Rhode Island Housing Development Corporation? The answer is C, Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights. The Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights is tasked with handling fair housing violations related to discrimination. What action could be considered a violation of Rhode Island's fair housing laws? Is it A, refusing to sell a property to an individual because they have children? B, offering reasonable accommodations for disabled tenants? C, advertising property features that are specifically appealing to senior citizens? Or D, referring clients to listings only in certain neighborhoods? The answer is A, refusing to sell a property to an individual because they have children. Refusing to sell to families with children violates familial status protections under fair housing laws in Rhode Island. What is the penalty for a real estate agent in Rhode Island found guilty of housing discrimination? Is it A, a warning issued by the Rhode Island Real Estate Commission? B, revocation of real estate license by the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation? C, a small fine and community service are required? Or D, suspension from the Rhode Island Association of Realtors? The answer is B, revocation of real estate license by the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation. License revocation is a possible severe penalty imposed by the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation for fair housing violations. Which protected class is specific to Rhode Island's fair housing laws that is not typically covered under federal law? Is it A, familial status, B, gender identity or expression, C, national origin, or D, disability? The answer is B, gender identity or expression. Rhode Island's fair housing laws specifically include protection based on gender identity or expression, which is not explicitly mentioned in federal fair housing laws. In Rhode Island, How long must a tenant file a complaint regarding housing discrimination after the alleged act occurred? Is it A, 180 days, B, 1 year, C, 30 days, or D, 6 months? The answer is B, 1 year. Tenants in Rhode Island have up to 1 year to file a complaint regarding housing discrimination, aligning with many federal standards. Real estate contracts in Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, which document is primarily used to outline the terms and conditions agreed upon between a buyer and seller of real estate? Is it A, purchase and sale agreement, B, deed of trust, C, lease agreement, or D, listing agreement? The answer is A, purchase and sale agreement. The purchase and sale agreement is the standard document utilized to express the mutual understanding and binding commitments made by a buyer and a seller in Rhode Island transactions. What must sellers disclose in Rhode Island when completing a real estate transaction? Is it A, quality of local schools, B, history of the property's title, C, property condition including material defects, or D, neighboring property values? The answer is C, property condition including material defects. In Rhode Island, sellers must utilize a seller's disclosure form to report any known significant defects in the property to comply with statewide disclosure requirements. Which party in a Rhode Island real estate transaction typically holds the earnest money deposit? Is it A, the buyer's attorney, B, the seller, C, a third-party escrow company, or D, the real estate agent? The answer is C, a third-party escrow company. In Rhode Island, facilitating a safe and impartial transaction process usually involves a third-party escrow company tasked with holding the earnest money deposit. How long does a buyer generally have to conduct inspections after a purchase and sale agreement is signed in Rhode Island? Is it A, 7 days, B, 10 days, C, 45 days, or D, 3 days? The answer is B, 10 days. Typically, a 10-day period is allotted for buyers to perform necessary inspections following signing a purchase and sale agreement in Rhode Island, providing adequate time for comprehensive assessments. What happens if a contract contingency is not satisfied in a Rhode Island real estate contract? Is it A, the contract is voidable by the party benefiting from the contingency, B, the seller is entitled to retain the earnest money deposit, C, the contract is automatically void, or D, the buyer must renegotiate the contract terms? The answer is A, the contract is voidable by the party benefiting from the contingency. Under Rhode Island law, unmet contingencies can allow the party who benefits from them to void the contract or renegotiate terms, thus protecting against unfulfilled obligations. What is the mandatory form required for all residential real estate transactions in Rhode Island? Is it A, Rhode Island Residential Real Estate Purchase Agreement, B, Standard National Purchase Agreement, C, Rhode Island Property Condition Disclosure Form, or D, Environmental Hazard Statement? The answer is A, Rhode Island Residential Real Estate Purchase Agreement. Rhode Island mandates the use of the Residential Real Estate Purchase Agreement to ensure compliance with state-specific requirements for property transactions. In Rhode Island, how can a real estate contract be rescinded by mutual agreement? Is it A, oral agreement supported by witnesses, B, completion of a rescission agreement, C, notifying the Rhode Island Real Estate Commission, or D, filing a court complaint? The answer is B, completion of a rescission agreement. Rhode Island requires a signed rescission agreement to terminate a real estate contract by mutual consent, ensuring both parties formally agree to the termination.
If you're finding this helpful, please take a minute to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more practice exams, useful tips, and complimentary study sessions with Birdsey.
Disclosures required by Rhode Island law. What is a requirement for sellers when disclosing a property's lead-based paint hazards in Rhode Island? Is it A, ensure all lead paint is professionally removed? B, conduct a mandatory lead inspection before selling? C, include a lead safety plan in the purchase agreement? Or D, provide the EPA lead hazard pamphlet to the buyer? The answer is D, provide the EPA lead hazard pamphlet to the buyer. Rhode Island requires sellers to provide the EPA pamphlet on lead hazards. According to federal and state law, this helps inform and protect buyers from potential lead exposure in homes built prior to 1978. How long must a Rhode Island seller retain signed real estate disclosure documents after a transaction? Is it A, 3 years after the transaction? B, 5 years after the transaction? C, 1 year after the transaction? Or D, 2 years after the transaction? The answer is B, 5 years after the transaction. Sellers in Rhode Island must retain signed disclosure documents for 5 years. This requirement ensures compliance with the state law governing documentation and facilitates any follow-up inquiries. What must a licensee disclose regarding the condition of the property in Rhode Island? Is it A, only defects discovered during their tour? B, any material defects they are aware of? C, past defects that have been repaired? Or D, defects reported by third-party inspectors only? The answer is B, any material defects they are aware of. Real estate licensees are required by Rhode Island law to disclose any known material defects. This duty aims to protect buyers by ensuring they are fully informed about the property's condition. Under Rhode Island law, when must a seller provide a buyer with a disclosure statement? Is it A, at the time of closing? B, after the property inspection is completed? C, before listing the property for sale? Or D, at the time of an accepted offer? The answer is D, at the time of an accepted offer. Rhode Island law requires that property condition disclosure statements be provided when an offer is accepted. This ensures that purchasers have all necessary information to proceed with informed consent. Which environmental hazard requires a specific disclosure in Rhode Island real estate transactions? Is it A, asbestos presence? B, lead-based paint? C, radon levels? Or D, water quality issues? The answer is B, lead-based paint. Under Rhode Island law, sellers must disclose potential lead-based paint hazards for properties built before 1978. This specific disclosure is crucial due to the associated health risks mandated by federal and state regulations. In Rhode Island, what must be disclosed regarding the presence of lead-based paint in residential properties? Is it A, only for properties built after 1978? B, only if requested by the buyer? C, for properties built before 1978? Or D, there are no specific disclosure requirements? The answer is C, for properties built before 1978. Federal law, adopted by Rhode Island, requires sellers to disclose known information on lead-based paint hazards for housing built before 1978. Buyers must receive an EPA-approved information pamphlet. What is a seller in Rhode Island required to disclose about septic systems? Is it A, the name of the installer only? B, the presence and condition of the septic system? C, only if the evaluation was done in the last 5 years? Or D, location on the property? The answer is B, the presence and condition of the septic system. Rhode Island requires sellers to disclose any known issues with septic systems to inform buyers of potential complications and necessary repairs or maintenance. Transfer of title in Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, which document is typically used to transfer title in real estate transactions? Is it A, warranty deed, B, quitclaim deed, C, grant deed, or D, bargain and sale deed? The answer is A, warranty deed. In Rhode Island, the warranty deed is the most commonly used document for transferring real estate title, as it guarantees clear ownership and provides the grantee with protections against claims. Which Rhode Island law requires the seller to disclose the known presence of lead-based hazards in residential properties? Is it A, Rhode Island Lead Paint Liability Act, B, Landlord and Tenant Act, C, Property Condition Disclosure Act, or D, Residential Lead-Based Hazard Reduction Act? The answer is D, Residential Lead-Based Hazard Reduction Act. The Residential Lead-Based Hazard Reduction Act, enforced in Rhode Island, necessitates sellers to disclose any known lead-based paint or related hazards in properties built before 1978 to protect potential buyers and tenants. What must be done before a title can be transferred in Rhode Island if there is a lien on the property? Is it A, lien must be paid off or assumed by the buyer, B, lien can be transferred to a different property, C, lien priority must be adjusted, or D, lien should be ignored? The answer is A, lien must be paid off or assumed by the buyer. Before the transfer of title in Rhode Island, any lien on the property must either be paid off or arrangements made to satisfy the lien to ensure a clear title is conveyed. How does Rhode Island law generally classify a deed acquired through adverse possession before title transfer? Is it A, unmarketable, B, marketable, C, encumbered, or D, unrestricted? The answer is A, unmarketable. In Rhode Island, a title acquired through adverse possession is considered unmarketable until a court grants a clear title, resolving any disputes over ownership and confirming the transfer. What is the document recorded at the Rhode Island Registry of Deeds to confirm a property's title transfer? Is it A, deed, B, title insurance, C, promissory note, or D, bill of sale? The answer is A, deed. In Rhode Island, the deed is the document filed with the Registry of Deeds to officially record the transfer of property title, ensuring public notice of ownership change and protecting the grantee's legal rights. Under Rhode Island law, which document is primarily used to transfer real estate ownership? Is it A, quitclaim deed, B, warranty deed, C, bill of sale, or D, promissory note? The answer is B, warranty deed. In Rhode Island, a warranty deed is used to transfer real estate as it provides guarantees to the buyer about the legitimacy and quality of the title, offering protection against claims. What is a requirement for a deed to be valid in Rhode Island? Is it A, witnessed by a notary public, B, signed by a realtor, C, contain the grantor's email address, or D, include a property survey? The answer is A, witnessed by a notary public. In Rhode Island, for a deed to be valid and recordable, it must be acknowledged before a notary public who verifies the identities and intent of the signatories.
Notice the code in the corner? When you're stumped by a question, enter it at birdsey.ai for immediate help. Enjoy complimentary study sessions and access to hundreds of additional questions to help you pass your exam with confidence.
Earnest money and escrow in Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, what is the maximum period within which earnest money must be deposited into an escrow account following receipt? Is it A, immediately upon receipt, B, within 5 business days of receipt, C, within 10 calendar days of receipt, or D, within 30 days of receipt? The answer is B, within 5 business days of receipt. According to Rhode Island real estate law, earnest money must be deposited into the escrow account within 5 business days of receipt to ensure timely and compliant handling. Who is primarily responsible for holding earnest money in an escrow account during real estate transactions in Rhode Island? Is it A, the seller's attorney, B, the buyer's real estate agent, C, the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation, or D, a state-approved financial institution? The answer is B, the buyer's real estate agent. In Rhode Island, the buyer's real estate brokerage typically handles the earnest money by depositing it into an appropriate escrow account, ensuring compliance with state regulations. What action should be taken if a dispute arises over earnest money in Rhode Island? Is it A, the escrow agent can release the funds to the seller, B, the buyer automatically gets a refund, C, the matter may be taken to court or be subjected to arbitration, or D, the escrow agent can decide based on their discretion? The answer is C, the matter may be taken to court or be subjected to arbitration. In cases of dispute over earnest money in Rhode Island, the involved parties usually seek resolution through negotiation, arbitration, or court to determine entitlement. Under Rhode Island law, what is a key requirement for the use of an escrow account in real estate transactions? Is it A, the account must accrue interest for the buyer, B, the account must be separate from personal accounts, C, the account can be used for other business purposes, or D, it must be managed by an independent third party? The answer is B, the account must be separate from personal accounts. Rhode Island mandates that escrow accounts must be distinct from any personal or business accounts to maintain clear financial separation and accountability. In Rhode Island, what is a potential consequence for a broker failing to properly handle earnest money in a real estate transaction? Is it A, temporary suspension of the license, B, a fine payable to the client, C, automatic revocation of the license, or D, mandatory community service? The answer is A, temporary suspension of the license. Failure to properly handle earnest money in Rhode Island can result in severe penalties, including a suspension of the real estate license, highlighting the importance of compliance. In Rhode Island, who is responsible for holding the earnest money in a real estate transaction? Is it A, the seller of the property, B, the listing broker, C, the buyer, or D, the title company? The answer is B, the listing broker. In Rhode Island, it is standard practice for the listing broker to hold earnest money in a trust account to ensure security and neutrality in handling these funds until the transaction is completed. What is the main purpose of holding earnest money in escrow in Rhode Island real estate transactions? Is it A, to finance the seller's next property purchase, B, to provide a down payment for property insurance, C, to demonstrate the buyer's commitment to the purchase, or D, to pay for property inspection costs? The answer is C, to demonstrate the buyer's commitment to the purchase. The primary role of earnest money in Rhode Island is to signal the buyer's serious intent and commitment to the purchase, providing assurance to the seller while the transaction progresses. Rhode Island real estate taxes. What is the purpose of the Rhode Island homestead exemption? Is it A, to provide a tax rebate to new homeowners, B, to reduce the taxable value of a primary residence for Rhode Island homeowners, C, to offer financial assistance to renters, or D, to incentivize commercial property development? The answer is B, to reduce the taxable value of a primary residence for Rhode Island homeowners. The Rhode Island homestead exemption reduces the assessed value of a homeowner's primary residence, thereby lowering property taxes. This exemption is designed to provide tax relief to those owning and residing in their homes. How are property tax rates determined in Rhode Island? Is it A, by the Rhode Island State Legislature every year? B, by individual municipalities based on local budget needs? C, by a statewide referendum? Or D, by the Rhode Island Department of Revenue? The answer is B, by individual municipalities based on local budget needs. In Rhode Island, each municipality determines its property tax rates according to its budgetary needs, meaning tax rates vary from one community to another based on local fiscal decisions. When is the annual deadline for property tax payments in Rhode Island? Is it A, January 1st, B, June 15th, C, March 15th, or D, varies by municipality? The answer is D, varies by municipality. Property tax payment deadlines in Rhode Island vary by municipality, as each local government determines its payment schedule. Property owners should consult their local tax authority for specific dates. What action can be taken if property taxes are not paid in Rhode Island? Is it A, the property is immediately seized by the state? B, the homeowner is required to attend a mandatory state-run financial management course? C, a lien is placed on the property, which may lead to a tax sale? Or D, the homeowner's credit score is automatically reduced? The answer is C, a lien is placed on the property, which may lead to a tax sale. In Rhode Island, if property taxes remain unpaid, a lien can be placed on the property. This lien may lead to a tax sale if the delinquent taxes are not settled, allowing the municipality to recoup the owed taxes by selling the property. Which entity is responsible for assessing property values for tax purposes in Rhode Island? Is it A, Rhode Island Department of Assessments? B, local municipal assessors' offices? C, Federal Real Estate Board? Or D, statewide property valuation agency? The answer is B, local municipal assessors' offices. Property assessments in Rhode Island are performed by local municipal assessors' offices. These offices evaluate properties to determine their value for taxation purposes, ensuring fair and accurate tax assessments within their jurisdiction. What is the primary funding source for municipal services in Rhode Island? Is it A, income, B, property taxes, C, sales taxes, or D, transfer taxes? The answer is B, property taxes. In Rhode Island, property taxes are essential for funding municipal services such as schools, police, fire departments, and public works. Each municipality calculates the property tax rate based on the assessed value of owned properties. Which state entity in Rhode Island determines the assessed value of a property for tax purposes? Is it A, Rhode Island Department of Revenue? B, Municipal Tax Assessor's Office? C, Rhode Island Real Estate Commission? Or D, Office of the Governor? The answer is B, Municipal Tax Assessor's Office. In Rhode Island, each municipality has a tax assessor's office responsible for determining the assessed value of properties for tax calculation. This process impacts the local property tax rate applied to property owners.
If you're finding this helpful, please take a minute to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more practice exams, useful tips, and complimentary study sessions with Birdsey.
Rhode Island Real Estate Commission. What is the main function of the Rhode Island Real Estate Commission? Is it A, to set national real estate standards? B, to regulate and oversee real estate practices within Rhode Island? C, to offer grants and loans for property development? Or D, to manage federal real estate policies? The answer is B, to regulate and oversee real estate practices within Rhode Island. The Rhode Island Real Estate Commission is responsible for ensuring that real estate practices in Rhode Island are conducted in accordance with state laws. It monitors compliance, issues licenses, and enforces real estate regulations to protect consumers. What must a Rhode Island real estate licensee do when engaging in a transaction involving dual agency? Is it A, disclose the dual agency to all parties and obtain written consent? B, maintain confidentiality of all parties without additional disclosure? C, automatically terminate the agency agreement? Or D, report the dual agency to the Rhode Island Attorney General? The answer is A, disclose the dual agency to all parties and obtain written consent. In Rhode Island, dual agency occurs when a real estate licensee represents both the buyer and seller. It is permissible, but the law mandates full disclosure to both parties and obtaining their written consent to maintain transparency and ethics in transactions. Which of the following is a requirement related to real estate trust accounts in Rhode Island? Is it A, trust accounts can be maintained in personal savings? B, trust accounts must be reviewed regularly as part of compliance? C, trust accounts are optional for real estate brokers? Or D, trust accounts can have overdraft protection? The answer is B, trust accounts must be reviewed regularly as part of compliance. Rhode Island real estate law requires brokers to maintain separate trust accounts for client funds. These accounts must be reviewed regularly to comply with auditing standards and protect client interests, ensuring proper management and disbursement of funds. When a property in Rhode Island is known to have lead hazards, what is the required disclosure process? Is it A, no special disclosure is required for lead hazards? B, the seller can verbally disclose lead hazards to the buyer? C, buyers must sign a waiver exempting the seller from liability? Or D, sellers must provide a lead hazard information pamphlet and include a disclosure form as part of the sales contract? The answer is D. Sellers must provide a lead hazard information pamphlet and include a disclosure form as part of the sales contract. In Rhode Island, the sale of properties known to have lead-based paint hazards must include the provision of a lead hazard information pamphlet by the seller and the inclusion of a lead-based paint disclosure form with the sales contract, ensuring full disclosure to protect buyers. What recent change has been implemented in Rhode Island regarding continuing education for real estate licensees? Is it A, all courses must be completed within a month after license renewal? B, certain ethics courses have become mandatory? C, continuing education is now optional for renewal? Or D, education providers must now be based within Rhode Island? The answer is B, certain ethics courses have become mandatory. Rhode Island has updated its continuing education requirements for real estate licensees, introducing mandatory ethics courses to ensure that all practitioners uphold the highest standard of ethical practice in real estate transactions and relationships. Rhode Island real estate licensing laws and regulations. What is the required minimum age to apply for a real estate salesperson license in Rhode Island? Is it A, 18 years, B, 19 years, C, 21 years, or D, 16 years? The answer is A, 18 years. Rhode Island requires individuals to be at least 18 years of age to apply for a real estate salesperson's license, following compliance with education and examination demands. What type of account must a Rhode Island real estate broker create when holding client funds? Is it A, personal checking account, B, a trust account, C, joint savings account, or D, cash register? The answer is B, a trust account. Rhode Island law mandates that real estate brokers must deposit client funds into a properly designated trust account, ensuring these funds are kept separate from personal or business funds, which is not a requirement for maintaining a real estate license in Rhode Island. Is it A, completing continuing education courses, B. Submitting renewal applications on time. C. Participating in a national real estate association. Or D. Paying the required renewal fee. The answer is C. Participating in a national real estate association. While continuing education, on-time application submission, and paying renewal fees are mandatory, joining a national association is not required to maintain a Rhode Island real estate license. How often must Rhode Island real estate salespersons renew their licenses? Is it A. Every year, B. Every 2 years, C. Every 5 years, or D. Every 6 months? The answer is B. Every 2 years. Real estate salespersons in Rhode Island must renew their licenses biennially, ensuring compliance with state licensing requirements, including completion of continuing education. What body governs the practice and licensing of real estate professionals in Rhode Island? Is it A. Rhode Island Real Estate Commission, B. National Association of Realtors, C. Federal Housing Administration, or D. Rhode Island Department of Finance? The answer is A. Rhode Island Real Estate Commission. The Rhode Island Real Estate Commission is responsible for overseeing real estate practices, including licensing, regulations, enforcement, and education for real estate professionals within the state. What is the minimum age requirement to obtain a real estate license in Rhode Island? Is it A. 18 years, B. 19 years, C. 20 years, or D. 21 years? The answer is A. 18 years. Rhode Island requires individuals to be at least 18 years old to apply for a real estate salesperson license. This regulation is enforced by the Department of Business Regulation. Who is responsible for regulating real estate licensing in Rhode Island? Is it A. Rhode Island Real Estate Commission, B. Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation, C. National Association of Realtors, or D. Rhode Island Association of Realtors? The answer is B. Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation. In Rhode Island, the Department of Business Regulation is the agency responsible for the issuance and regulation of real estate licenses in accordance with state laws and regulations. Let's continue with a review of Rhode Island real estate finance. Loan fundamentals. Which document is usually recorded to provide constructive notice of a property lien in Rhode Island? Is it A. Title policy, B. Promissory note, C. Mortgage deed, or D. Quitclaim deed? The answer is C. Mortgage deed. In Rhode Island, a mortgage deed is recorded to inform future creditors and buyers of an existing lien on property. This provides constructive notice to the public. What is the role of the Rhode Island Division of Banking in real estate transactions? Is it A. To conduct home appraisals, B. To register property transfer deeds, C. To manage real estate agent licensing, or D. To regulate mortgage brokers and lenders? The answer is D. To regulate mortgage brokers and lenders. In Rhode Island, the Division of Banking ensures compliance with financial regulations for mortgage brokers and lenders, impacting how real estate financing is conducted. How long must a mortgage lender keep records of loan applications in Rhode Island? Is it A. 1 year, B. 3 years, C. 5 years, or D. 7 years? The answer is B. 3 years. Rhode Island regulations require mortgage lenders to keep records of loan applications for a minimum of 3 years, ensuring transparency and compliance with state audits. In Rhode Island, when can a mortgage lender start foreclosure proceedings on a delinquent loan? Is it A. Immediately upon missed payment, B. After a 30-day notice of default, C. After a 90-day notice of right to cure, or D. After 180 days of delinquency? The answer is C. After a 90-day notice of right to cure, a 90-day right to cure notice is required in Rhode Island before commencing foreclosure, allowing borrowers the opportunity to resolve default issues. What is a due on sale clause in a Rhode Island mortgage? Is it A, an agreement to sell the mortgaged property at any time? B, a clause requiring loan repayment upon property sale? C, an option for the lender to increase interest rates? Or D, a regulation on rental agreements for the property? The answer is B, a clause requiring loan repayment upon property sale. The due on sale clause in Rhode Island requires full mortgage repayment if the property is sold. This protects lenders from unauthorized property transfers that bypass loan terms. In Rhode Island, which type of loan typically requires private mortgage insurance if the down payment is less than 20%? Is it A, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, VA loan? B, Federal Housing Administration, FHA loan? C, conventional loan? Or D, U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA loan? The answer is C, conventional loan. Conventional loans in Rhode Island typically require private mortgage insurance if the borrower makes a down payment of less than 20%. What is the legal maximum interest rate, also known as usury, for loans in Rhode Island? Is it A, 18%, B, 21%, C, 12%, or D, 15%? The answer is C, 12%. Rhode Island law sets the maximum allowable interest rate for loans not secured by real estate at 12%, beyond which interest is considered usurious. In Rhode Island, which type of loan is not insured or guaranteed by any government agency? Is it A, Federal Housing Administration, FHA loan? B, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, VA loan? C, conventional loan? Or D, U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA loan? The answer is C, conventional loan. Conventional loans are provided by private lenders and are not backed by any government entity. They often have stricter credit requirements compared to government-insured loans. For an FHA loan in Rhode Island, what is the minimum down payment percentage required? Is it A, 3.5%, B, 10%, C, 5%, or D, 15%? The answer is A, 3.5%. The Federal Housing Administration allows borrowers to make a down payment as low as 3.5%, contingent upon meeting certain credit score criteria. What is a key benefit of a VA loan in Rhode Island for eligible veterans? Is it A, low credit requirements? B, no down payment required? C, high interest rates? Or D, Federal Housing Administration insurance? The answer is B, no down payment required. VA loans, available to veterans and service members, offer the benefit of no required down payment, often making homeownership more accessible. What disclosure must be provided to borrowers prior to closing on an FHA loan in Rhode Island? Is it A, good faith estimate? B, closing disclosure? C, VA loan summary? Or D, conventional loan agreement? The answer is B, closing disclosure. The closing disclosure must be provided to borrowers 3 business days before closing, detailing all the costs and terms of the FHA loan. In Rhode Island, who manages the compliance of loan originators involved in FHA, VA, and USDA loans? Is it A, Federal Reserve Board? B, Rhode Island Division of Banking? C, Housing and Urban Development? Or D, Department of Agriculture? The answer is B, Rhode Island Division of Banking. The Rhode Island Division of Banking is responsible for ensuring loan originators comply with state regulations, including those involved in government-backed loan programs like FHA, VA, and USDA. What is a key benefit of a VA loan for qualified veterans in Rhode Island? Is it A, no down payment requirement. B, reduced closing costs. C, no property insurance required. Or D, no income verification needed. The answer is A, no down payment requirement. VA loans provide significant benefits to veterans, including the possibility of purchasing a home without a down payment. This is particularly advantageous in high-cost areas like Rhode Island. How does the FHA loan program assist first-time homebuyers in Rhode Island? Is it A, offers adjustable interest rates, B, allows lower credit scores and smaller down payments, C, eliminates the need for a credit check, or D, provides larger borrowing limits? The answer is B, allows lower credit scores and smaller down payments. FHA loans are particularly useful for first-time buyers who may have lower credit scores and limited funds for a down payment. Rhode Island residents can benefit from this flexibility. Loan qualifications. What is the minimum credit score required to qualify for a mortgage loan under Rhode Island state regulations? Is it A, 580, B, 620, C, 700, or D, 60? The answer is B, 620. Rhode Island generally follows major lenders' standards, requiring a minimum credit score of 620 to qualify for conventional loans. This aligns with federal guidelines but may vary by lender. In Rhode Island, which income documentation is typically required by lenders to verify applicants' ability to repay a loan? Is it A, bank statements only, B, W-2s and tax returns, C, a letter of employment, or D, pay stubs only? The answer is B, W-2s and tax returns. W-2s and tax returns are crucial for lenders in Rhode Island to evaluate income stability and capacity to repay loans, ensuring compliance with state and federal norms. How does Rhode Island law regulate the maximum loan-to-value ratio for a conventional loan? Is it A, no regulations set by lenders, B, generally capped at 80%, C, regulated at 85%, or D, typically 95% with mortgage insurance? The answer is D, typically 95% with mortgage insurance. Rhode Island regulations allow a high LTV of up to 95% for borrowers with mortgage insurance, providing flexibility in home buying consistent with national practices. What is the typical debt-to-income ratio limit for borrower qualification in Rhode Island? Is it A, 28% front end, 36% back end, B, 31%, 43% back end, C, 40% front end, 50% back end, or D, 35% front end, 45% back end? The answer is B, 31% front end, 3% back end. Rhode Island lenders commonly apply FHA's 31-43% DTI limits, ensuring borrowers can manage loan payments alongside other debts, aligning with reasonable lending practices. Which state-specific program assists first-time homebuyers in Rhode Island with loan qualifications? Is it A, Rhode Island Mortgage Relief Program, B, Rhode Island Bridge Loan Program, C, First Home Loan Program, or D, Ocean State Homebuyer Program? The answer is C, First Home Loan Program. Rhode Island's First Home Loan Program aids first-time buyers with lower down payment criteria, expanded credit options, and competitive interest rates, facilitating entry into the housing market. What is the minimum credit score required for a conventional mortgage in Rhode Island? Is it A, 620, B, 500, C, 700, or D, 580? The answer is A, 620. In Rhode Island, a minimum credit score of 620 is often required by lenders for conventional mortgage qualifications, although individual lenders may have their own requirements based on market conditions and risk assessment. Which of the following is not typically considered in the debt-to-income ratio calculation for a mortgage eligibility in Rhode Island? Is it A, monthly homeowners association dues. B. Monthly child support payments received. C. Mortgage payments. Or D. Student loan payments. The answer is B. Monthly child support payments received. In the calculation of debt-to-income ratios for mortgage eligibility, income such as monthly child support payments received is not typically factored into debt, but is considered for income assessment. The loan application process. What is a key consideration for lenders during the loan application process according to Rhode Island regulations? Is it A. Credit score verification, B. Verification of borrower's age, C. Determining previous rental history, or D. The borrower's employment longevity? The answer is A. Credit score verification. In Rhode Island, lenders assess a borrower's credit score as part of evaluating financial risk and repayment capability. This forms a critical part of the loan application process. What document is primarily used by lenders to assess a borrower's income in Rhode Island? Is it A. Bank statements, B. W-2 forms, C. Previous lease agreements, or D. Letter of recommendation? The answer is B. W-2 forms. In Rhode Island, W-2 forms are commonly used by lenders to verify a borrower's income. They provide official records of wages and withholdings essential for assessing loan eligibility. What disclosure must a borrower provide under Rhode Island real estate finance laws? Is it A. Current vehicle registration, B. Monthly grocery expenses, C. Future employment plans, or D. Income tax returns? The answer is D. Income tax returns. In Rhode Island, borrowers must disclose income tax returns during the loan application process. This helps lenders verify the borrower's financial status and income over previous years. Which law requires transparency in the mortgage loan terms in Rhode Island? Is it A. Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, B. Truth in Lending Act, C. Fair Housing Act, or D. Dodd-Frank Act? The answer is A. Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. The Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act requires specific disclosures about loan terms to provide transparency to borrowers in Rhode Island, thus protecting against unexpected surprises in loan agreements. Before issuing a loan decision, what verification process must lenders complete in Rhode Island? Is it A. Property inspection, B. Verification of employment, C. Personal interview, or D. Credit card billing statement? The answer is B. Verification of employment. In Rhode Island, lenders are required to verify a borrower's employment status through a verification of employment. This is critical in assessing the borrower's ability to repay the loan based on stable income. What specific agency oversees real estate finance compliance in Rhode Island during the loan application process? Is it A. Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation, B. Federal Reserve Board, C. National Association of Realtors, or D. Rhode Island Real Estate Commission? The answer is A. Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation. The Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation is responsible for ensuring compliance in real estate finance transactions within the state, making it the correct agency involved in the loan application process. Which document is not required in the Rhode Island loan application process? Is it A. W-2 forms, B. Property tax receipt, C. Credit report, or D. Bank statements? The answer is B. Property tax receipt. While a comprehensive review of financial documents is required, property tax receipts are typically not part of the initial loan application process in Rhode Island. Underwriting for Rhode Island real estate. What is a particular requirement for a borrower to qualify for a residential mortgage under Rhode Island's underwriting rules? Is it A. Minimum FICO score of 650, B. verification of state residency. C. Proof of employment within Rhode Island. Or D. Compliance with local zoning requirements. The answer is D. Compliance with local zoning requirements. Rhode Island requires that properties meet local zoning laws, which affect the property's legal use and value, making this relevant in the underwriting process. What must lenders consider during the underwriting process in Rhode Island involving a potential flood zone? Is it A. Mandatory flood insurance, B. Assignment of title insurance, C. An increase in loan interest rates, or D. Banning of property sales? The answer is A. Mandatory flood insurance. In Rhode Island, properties identified in flood zones must have flood insurance due to risks of potential flood damage affecting underwriting approvals. Which of the following disclosure is required by lenders when underwriting a loan for a property in Rhode Island? Is it A. Disclosure of previous flood damage, B. Disclosure of the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act compliance, C. Disclosure of local wildlife habitats, or D. Age of the property's HVAC system? The answer is B. Disclosure of the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act compliance. Under RESPA, lenders are required to disclose information about settlement services, which is critical for borrowers to understand closing costs and procedures. In Rhode Island, what is a key consideration underwriters must evaluate regarding liens? Is it A. Liens must be consensual, B. All liens must be subordinate, C. Presence of utility liens, or D. Liens are irrelevant during underwriting? The answer is C. Presence of utility liens. Utility liens indicate outstanding debts for services which can cloud title status and affect loan approvals, making them a key concern in underwriting. How does Rhode Island's disclosure law influence real estate financing and underwriting? Is it A. Does not apply to residential properties, B. Mandates disclosure of material defects, C. Requires disclosing zoning variances, or D. Eliminates the need for appraisals? The answer is B. Mandates disclosure of material defects. Under Rhode Island's disclosure law, sellers must disclose all known material defects, influencing the risk assessment in both underwriting and loan approval processes. What is a unique requirement of Rhode Island real estate underwriting regarding property conditions? Is it A. Disclosure of coastal erosion risks in certain areas, B. Mandatory radon gas inspection for all properties, C. Settlement checks must be signed by the seller, or D. Appraisal based solely on market trends? The answer is A. Disclosure of coastal erosion risks in certain areas. Rhode Island mandates specific disclosures related to coastal erosion risks due to its geographical location and associated hazards impacting real estate values. In Rhode Island, who is primarily responsible for ensuring that underwriting complies with fair lending laws? Is it A. The real estate agent, B. The lending institution, C. State Appraisal Board, or D. The buyer? The answer is B. The lending institution. In Rhode Island, lenders are responsible for underwriting practices, ensuring compliance with fair lending laws to avoid discrimination during the mortgage approval process.
Notice the code in the corner? When you're stumped by a question, enter it at birdsey.ai for immediate help. Enjoy complimentary study sessions and access to hundreds of additional questions to help you pass your exam with confidence.
Loan closing. Which document is typically signed by the seller at the closing of a real estate transaction in Rhode Island to transfer ownership? Is it A. Promissory note, B. Loan estimate, C. Purchase agreement, or D. Deed? The answer is D. Deed. In Rhode Island, the seller typically signs a deed at closing to legally transfer the property ownership to the buyer. The deed must be recorded with the local city or town to provide public notice of the change in ownership. What is the purpose of the Rhode Island closing disclosure in the loan closing process? Is it A, to detail the loan's interest rate, B, to list the buyer's personal references, C, to provide final terms and detailed costs of the mortgage, or D, to record the deed with the city or town? The answer is C, to provide final terms and detailed costs of the mortgage. The Rhode Island closing disclosure is given to the borrower 3 days before closing, detailing the loan terms, projected monthly payments, and all finalized closing costs, ensuring transparency and understanding for the borrower. In Rhode Island, what does the Good Funds Law require regarding closing funds? Is it A, all closing funds must be wire transferred 3 days prior to closing, B, funds be available and verified before completing the transaction, C, cash payments be made no later than the day of closing, or D, sellers pay closing costs before closing day? The answer is B, funds be available and verified before completing the transaction. Rhode Island's Good Funds Law mandates that all funds must be verified and available before the transaction is finalized to protect all parties involved in the closing process. This ensures that the transaction is backed by actual funds. How is the Rhode Island Homestead Act relevant to loan closings? Is it A, it offers special interest rates on home loans, B, it requires lenders to provide additional disclosures, C, it protects a portion of equity from creditors at closing, or D, it necessitates insurance at the time of closing? The answer is C, it protects a portion of equity from creditors at closing. Rhode Island's Homestead Act allows homeowners to protect up to a certain amount of their home equity from unsecured creditors, which can be a critical consideration at the time of loan closing if the borrower faces financial difficulties. When may the buyer's title insurance policy be issued in Rhode Island real estate transactions? Is it A, before the signing of the purchase agreement, B, after obtaining homeowner's insurance, C, after closing and funding are completed, or D, immediately after contract acceptance? The answer is C, after closing and funding are completed. In Rhode Island, the buyer's title insurance policy is typically issued after the real estate transaction's closing and funding are completed, securing the transfer of clear title to the new owner and protecting against future claims. What is required at a Rhode Island real estate loan closing to finalize the transaction? Is it A, a notarized bill of sale, B, settlement statement in compliance with Rhode Island legislative requirements, C, zoning certificate, or D, copy of the loan application? The answer is B, settlement statement in compliance with Rhode Island legislative requirements. In Rhode Island, the settlement statement, or HUD-1, is crucial for disclosing all fees and disbursements to both buyer and seller, ensuring compliance with state regulations. In Rhode Island, who is primarily responsible for ensuring that the closing disclosure is delivered to the buyer? Is it A, the seller's attorney, B, the lender, C, the buyer's real estate agent, or D, title insurance company? The answer is B, the lender. According to Rhode Island law, the lender must provide the closing disclosure to the buyer at least 3 business days before the closing date, ensuring the buyer's informed consent. Rhode Island mortgage disclosure requirements. What must be provided to a borrower when applying for a mortgage loan in Rhode Island? Is it A, a statement of account from all lenders, B, a mortgage disclosure statement detailing loan terms, C, a list of comparable properties sold in the area, or D, a copy of the lender's annual financial statement? The answer is B, a mortgage disclosure statement detailing loan terms. Rhode Island law mandates a mortgage disclosure statement to inform borrowers about the specific terms of their loan, ensuring transparency and compliance with state regulations. Under Rhode Island law, when should the mortgage disclosure be provided to the borrower? Is it A, immediately after the loan is funded, B, when the borrower submits their first loan repayment, C, before the borrower incurring any fees or signing the loan agreement, or D, after the appraisal of the property has been completed? The answer is C, before the borrower incurring any fees or signing the loan agreement. Rhode Island law ensures borrowers receive complete information about the mortgage terms before incurring any costs or finalizing the agreement, fostering transparency and informed consent. Which of the following is not a required element of a mortgage disclosure in Rhode Island? Is it A, interest rate details, B, borrower's credit score, C, loan repayment schedule, or D, information on any loan origination fees? The answer is B, borrower's credit score. While critical to the lending process, the borrower's credit score is not necessarily included in the mortgage disclosure. More focus is on items directly impacting the loan costs and terms. Who is responsible for ensuring compliance with Rhode Island's mortgage disclosure laws? Is it A, the borrower, B, the real estate broker, C, the mortgage lender, or D, the Rhode Island Real Estate Commission? The answer is C, the mortgage lender. Mortgage lenders in Rhode Island must comply with state laws regarding mortgage disclosures to protect borrowers, ensuring they receive accurate and timely information about their loans. What is a potential consequence for lenders who fail to comply with Rhode Island's mortgage disclosure requirements? Is it A, mandatory borrower renegotiation, B, revocation of lender's license, C, automatic approval of loan application, or D, increased interest rates for the borrower? The answer is B, revocation of lender's license. Lenders who fail to meet disclosure requirements risk significant penalties, such as fines or revocation of their ability to operate, emphasizing the importance of adherence to these regulations. Which document is required to disclose to a Rhode Island property buyer the presence of lead-based paint if the home was built before 1978? Is it A, HUD lead-based paint disclosure form, B, title report, C, property condition report, or D, structural report? The answer is A, HUD lead-based paint disclosure form. In Rhode Island, as per federal and state law, a HUD lead-based paint disclosure form is necessary for homes built before 1978 to disclose possible lead hazards to the buyer. What is the penalty for failing to provide the Rhode Island seller's disclosure form to a buyer? Is it A, revocation of the real estate license, B, mandatory property appraisal at seller's expense, C, imprisonment for up to 1 year, or D, a fine of up to $500? The answer is D, a fine of up to $500. In Rhode Island, the law mandates that a seller's disclosure form must be provided, and failure to do so can result in fines up to $500 as a compliance penalty.
Thanks for joining us today. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to our channel for more practice exams, tips, and tricks. And don't forget to visit birdsey.ai for complimentary study sessions with Birdsey, your AI-powered study partner.